You're watching the 420 Pace Network, found at 420radio.ca and paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Coming up on today's show,
our word for the week this week is cherry.
As well, we're going to be looking at Timmy's top 5 yoga poses.
And part 2 of our interview with Olympic Gold Medalist Rebagliati.
You nailed it.
Thank you.
This podcast is for adults only, should not be used as a meal replacement, and may contain nuts.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Noobie and the Doobie. My name is Timmy. I am the Noobie.
Marijane, I am the Doobie.
Today we are celebrating Yoga Day.
That's right. I feel like Y-O-G-A.
Oh, I like that. That's cute. Do that again.
Really?
Yeah.
Y-O-G-A.
That was kind of like a W. Put those arms up.
I don't.
Loud and proud.
Look. Do
What?
you see?
What, because your wrists go back? Oh, how did I never notice that before?
Really?
I think I just gave our producer probably a big loud earful there.
Okay, get this camera. Get this camera.
I've never seen that before.
Close your eyes.
How have I never... Wait, no, what... Oh, jeez. Wait, I think I just heard you twist... Oh, my God! How did I not know this?
That's why I try not to put my arms up
How did I not...
too much, because I'm like, wait, this is like
I can't
straight.
not see it now. Oh.
And I don't even do yoga. Y-O-G-A.
I've known you for over 3 years.
Yep. You don't have different thumbs too, right? Like my thumbs don't match.
No, I understand that.
No, you seen
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm not even close to my mic now. That was a legitimate...
He's like totally grossed out. That was awesome.
Look, there are some things on this show that we plan. Most of the show we don't. And that was one of those. How did I not...
When am I ever...
When do you ever do this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
For the longest time, I won't extend...
You can't not see it now.
I love you.
I said...
What was that, right? I said I love you. That's funny. Remember that thing you said to me the other day? What did I say? You said, I don't need to understand you to love you. And that's okay with me.
I don't need to understand to love. Yeah, I love
so
you
you don't need to understand that my arms go backwards. You just
no, I don't
me.
need to understand it, but I cannot not see it now.
Well, of course you cannot see it because I'm just got my arms like this.
No,
now.
I know, but now
you're looking at my arms like they're not real.
Okay, so that was. I thought we were gonna come on. We were gonna talk about yoga because I regularly.
Y-O-G-A.
If you don't yet, after all the episodes that we've done, if you do not yet understand why you need to watch this on YouTube and not just listen to it
you have
in
no idea
podcast
what
form,
just happened.
You have just missed out one of many treats that can... Jeez. Okay. All right. So, guaranteed, if this doesn't alone let our YouTube views on this video go up with people going, what just happened? What did she do? Go check that out. Are you done? Do you have any other morphines that you need to do?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. Now,
I'll save those for another 5 years from now.
Some people right now are going to think that this transition is going to somehow disprove my statement that we didn't plan what just happened. Because
what are you going to say?
Well, I'm about to talk about extreme flexibility. I swear to you, I didn't know that was going to happen. When we sat down,
that's not flexibility. That's like disjointness. So
she said she was going to. What would you say you were?
I wanted
to
do a headstand.
She said she was going to do a headstand
on the chair.
We were talking about how we were going to make that happen here, and then We got counted in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She goes, "Look what I can do!" Oh, no, that's not what we had planned. Look what I can do. Okay, so
Like Stewart.
look. What's his voice? I can't do it.
Look what I can do. That's good, Stewart. That's good.
That was off Mad TV,
Oh,
right?
I love Mad TV.
Okay, so
He's looking like a man. Okay, I'll stop.
okay, so I want to say. I don't know. I'm trying to somehow get my mind off this. So let's just quickly transition here. So, I do yoga on a regular basis.
Daily.
It
Multiple times a day sometimes.
I will say this once and once only on this episode. I'll say it many more times on other episodes. Yoga changed my life. Okay. The flexibility, the strength. I thought it was just for women and for flexibility. Guys, that was wrong. Wrong thinking. The first time I saw a bead of sweat drop from my forehead onto my mat, I was like, oh my goodness, this is doing something else. These yoga shoulders weren't there before. Just strength in general, just inner calmness, the breathing, the ability to do that, the flexibility, the strength all around, core, just all of it. We don't even have the space here, but check out our social media. I'm sure sometime during this week we will put something up there or a few things that show various
I'll definitely be
yoga
doing a
things.
headstand at some point.
So we go to check that out. But what I wanted to bring to the table on this one is the fact that I do what's called Yo-Jo yoga. Well, it's what I called Yo-Jo yoga because I was the one who named it.
Yo-Jo.
I have my G.I. Joe set up. I have all my G.I. Joes. It was like one of my few prized collection pieces. And I do my yoga in front of it. I have some pictures on my my Instagram at The Real Timmy Boyle called Yo-Jo yoga. And when
you told me an interesting fact about G.I. Joes and yoga.
I know.
And why you do the yoga in front of the G.I. Joes.
It's a good reminder for me. So this little guy here, I don't know what you can see on the camera. Black on black probably doesn't work, but so this is Torpedo. It was the very first.
I'm just going to put that behind him because, okay, there you go.
Back here. He was the very first G.I. Joe figure I ever bought. I have over 100 of these men in this nice little tin at home. He's got a little bit faded. You can see what color he used to be on the gray there.
A little bit faded. It looks pretty much brand new. How old is that thing you said?
Oh, this would be, early 80s?
Yeah, so...
I think, so my guys are, because I didn't play with my G.I. Joes. I displayed them. So other than some dust, I think they're all in some really good shape. So this is Torpedo. My thing, though, that I found very interesting, though, is I was watching a show called The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, I think 1980s. And then for those who know me, the 80s is my jam. I'm an 80s prophet. But see the movement that they have, like the joints?
Can actually bend the elbows and the knees.
Elbows and knees and stuff. Okay. Before these guys came out, if I remember any of this correctly, but listen, we're not scientists. We don't even call ourselves truth tellers sometimes.
And we don't work for the toy department.
No, we will try to do my best to recall this. So the thing I found fascinating was before this, they had the 3-inch guys, the Star Wars characters came out in their late 70s. But their arms, they only did this.
Like the Barbies, the straight legs,
straight
and the
legs, straight arms.
Yeah.
So the G.I. Joe developers were trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we take this to the next level? And if I got the story anywhere correct, one of their people was walking down the street, looked in an art store, saw those mannequins that can move, that
the little wooden
all
guys.
Flexible wooden mannequins.
Yes.
Bought a whole bunch of them, brought them back to the workplace, whatever it may be, and basically said, this is what we need to do. And G.I. Joe, I believe, became, as a result of that, what would have been called fully posable. Now, they've gone another step forward. The ones later on, I think even the wrists.
The fully opposable thumb? Do they give you the thumb?
I don't think they have the thumb. But this extra joint stuff, the Star Wars guys didn't have. G.I. Joe brought this in, and it was all a result of, once again, great ideas sometimes come from places you're not looking for them. And he was just looking around, saw these things in the art store and went, that's it. And hence these little posable figures were born. And so Star Wars figures, Luke, he's a Jedi Knight. He can't do the splits. But Torpedo can. and I can almost do it too. Stay tuned. Try to watch that video possibly on our social media as well.
It's funny, that wasn't the splits.
But this
That's
is
about
Torpedo.
as well as I could do the splits.
Look, you can do the full splits.
That's
Isn't that awesome?
more impressive than the Star Wars.
Yojo
for sure.
Yoga. That's what I do. Check out our social media. For
When
more
was the last time
information
you bought a G.I. Joe? Because maybe they do have opposable thumbs now.
Jeez, long time ago.
Maybe they do.
We're talking early 90s would have been the last. It could have been. I don't know.
I'm going to have to Google this and see what a G.I. Joe
When
looks
I
like
took all my
now.
G.I. Joes out of their containers and stuff, they were all wrapped up to finally display them, because now I have space to display them for the first time. They were wrapped up in newspapers from 1993.
Wow.
So they are now out on display, not fully, but on their way to full display. But this is Torpedo, fresh out of that box.
Out of storage.
Out of storage. So there you go. So happy Yoga Day.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing one of your collectibles with us.
Thank you. My kids weren't even ever allowed to touch them. Although I think one of my kids has claimed all my G.I. Joes when I die. That seems to be, I think that was one of the things they claimed.
That's funny. Wasn't it just their birthday, too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was
But
Jade's
he's
birthday.
not gone yet. So you
can't have my G.I. Joes yet,
yes,
Jade.
but they are yours.
But I hope your birthday was great. Whose
Speaking of birthdays.
Yes, well, very good transition.
Right?
We're nailing the transitions today.
Yeah, we've got someone else who nailed transitions in High School Musical.
Oh, look at this.
Vanessa Hudgens.
Look, people, we may not be truth tellers, but we are professional.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Professional shit tellers. No, shit. No shit in there.
No.
No.
All right.
I can't think of the word. Anyways, not professional there. So Vanessa Hudgens turns 33.
She's a High School Musical.
Yeah, I believe so.
I am a Sharpay fan to the core.
That was the blonde one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the only thing good of the Zach and Cody shows, too. Those Zach and Cody. I hated those. Zach and Cody, those twins.
Yeah.
Oh, one of those annoying TV shows.
The
that my
Sweet
kids-
Life?
Oh.
Oh, no.
If it wasn't for what's her name that played the same girl that played Sharpay.
Okay.
What's her name?
I'm pulling a blank. I'm pulling a blank.
You think of that. I'm gonna.
Okay, so think of the next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just see
there.
Sharpay.
Ashley Tisdale.
Okay,
Ashley Tisdale.
okay.
Without her, Zach and Cody would have been the worst show possibly on TV. Is that even their name? Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
It, yeah. Horrible
Yeah.
show. Horrible show. Ashley made that whole show. Go ahead.
Okay, and
Happy
the last,
birthday to Vanessa.
The last birthday we're talking or celebrating today is King George VI.
King George. Now you said that.
Yes.
And I looked up who King George VI was.
Okay.
I thought this was somebody who would have died back in the 1700s.
You know, like King George VI.
Yeah, right? Because it sounds like this, but
Well, I thought so because I'm like, oh, he would have been 126. Like, that's old.
he
But
died in like the 1950s.
what did he do? Like, was he the king of what?
I don't know who he was, but we put him on
Is
the
there a
list.
King George VII?
Maybe that's Will and Kate's son. His name's George.
No, that's not right.
No? I don't
No,
know.
because then the dad, it would be like,
But isn't it weird though? I thought it was weird that there was a King George the Sixth that was born in died in the 1950s. That just it sounds like medieval.
like the artist formerly known as Prince.
Well, that sounds very 90s and 80s.
But that's what I mean. It was like, it's weird for King George
Hi, I'm
VI.
King George the Sixth. It's like the 1950s. You're what?
I don't know.
That seemed weird. But happy birthday to that dead man.
Yeah, 126. Looking good.
Well, shall we get this thing rolling?
Oh, I'm always ready for that.
Roll it. Well, it is time for yet another word of the week. Mary Jane, what is the word? The word is the word. That was a song, right?
It's
The
a
bird-
bird.
Oh, the bird is the
Oh, well,
word.
bird. How did you not know that? Well, everybody knows about the bird, yeah. No, I messed up the words. Moving on.
What is the bird, Mary Jane?
The word is cherry, or also known as the heater.
The heater.
The heater.
Give him the heater, Ricky.
No, you don't
Do you know
want
what that
the
movie's
heater.
from? You're always-
Trailer Park Boys?
She lives off of.
The only
like-
Ricky I know is from Trailer Park Boys.
She lives off of the thing of play me a little bit of a song or do a quote from a movie, and always is like, "What's that from?" And I never ever know. And then she's always like, "Oh, how can you not know?" And then it's a big, long, week-long battle. Anyways, I'm throwing it out here on the show. Give him the heater, Ricky.
Trailer Park Boys.
No.
That is the only
from Major
Ricky
League, one of the best baseball movies ever. Charlie Sheen, and the manager yells out, "Throw him the heater, Ricky."
Okay, well, this is a different heater.
Okay, but
you don't want to catch this heater.
I always what I'm enjoying too is word of the week now. Is going into this every once in a while. There's like, this is the word of the week, which is also known as this word, which is also known as this word, which is sometimes known as this word.
Well, we could call it the cherry.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But then you'd be like, some people call it the heater.
Okay. So it's 2 words.
Yes. Well, it's
bonus
it's
episode.
The same thing.
Bonus
it's like
episode.
potato.
Okay, so I'm assuming there's a reason why it's called both the cherry and the heater. There must be a connection here.
Yes. Okay, so it's the red hot glowing bowl on the bong or the red hot end of the joint. So it's called the cherry most of the time because it looks like a cherry. It's red.
Yep.
It's round because it's either in the bowl or it's on the joint. They also call it the heater because it's hot.
Makes perfect sense.
Right? So I always say the rule of thumb, if it's red, it's not dead. Okay?
Like this record circle right there.
If it's red, it's not dead. We're still going.
How many times have we recorded when that circle wasn't there and then wondered what went wrong?
You know, the best is when we go over and hit stop and it's actually recording. You're like, oh.
Funny in hindsight, not when it happened.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if it's still red, it's not dead, keep smoking.
Okay.
This also is the #1 reason why you should not consume cannabis while in a moving vehicle. Okay?
Okay.
Don't smoke and drive.
#1 reason.
I'm like, I feel like I should have another rhyme here. Like, don't drop the heater in your cedar.
That's a good one, actually.
Right?
Don't drop the heater in your cedar.
Oh, how about this? If you drop the cherry, it's going to be scary.
I like both those.
Because it is. Like,
right.
you just don't do it.
This is more than word of the week. This is like literally like...
Life lessons.
Life lessons from MJ.
Yeah.
Literally.
And it's illegal. Hello. Reason #1 right there.
I love how that was... Yeah. Okay, what was it though? Don't drop the heater in your cedar.
Yep.
And what was the other one?
If you drop the cherry, it's going to be scary.
Drop the scary, yeah. Drop the cherry is going to be scary.
You're already tongue-tied.
I'm actually just surprised that this segment is already done.
We're done.
We ended. Those are 2 good phrases to end it on.
It is.
Yeah. There was your words of the week. Today's high 5 list is Timmy's top 5 yoga poses. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know if I would ever have a high 5 list of favorite yoga poses.
Didn't you actually used to preach against yoga?
I used to preach against yoga. I was I thought it was for women. I thought it was for flexibility, and that was it. I didn't think you could get a workout of it. I mean, it is no secret that there was a point in my life where yoga was a joke, and it has now radically changed my life. But I am here to tell you that there are 5 very, very, very helpful moves that not only helped me with health and strength and balance.
Are you going to go to the shoulders?
Well, they did help create and form these amazing yoga shoulders.
I feel like I should
This is why you watch the show and don't just listen to the show. So if you've been listening on podcast form, thank you.
But you're missing the shoulders.
Namaste, but you're not getting the shoulders. So these were also, not only did I see improvements in my body because of learning these poses,
okay.
But they also, each one of them along the way kind of were signposts to show that yoga was working.
Okay.
Right? So it was like I would look around the room and be like, why can't I do that? Because there'd be like, when I first went, there'd be like, I don't know, like a 60-year-old woman who, I don't know, I don't want to guess their ages. They're older than me.
An older woman.
And I was sitting there thinking, I can do that. And then they'd be holding these poses and I'm like, I can't do that. But each one of these poses was a place where I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this pose now. And each one blew my mind a little bit more. And I realized this thing is actually beneficial.
Yeah, you took me to one of your yoga classes, and I don't know about the beneficial part.
It is for a special breed of human being.
Oh.
But your shoulders would be amazing. It would help with that back posture. So here we go. Timmy's top 5 yoga poses. Number 5 was the tree pose.
Oh, I like that one. I know that one.
Right? The tree pose, you stand like arms up in the air.
Are we going to put a photo up?
Yes.
Where are we going to put the photo? Are we going to put it like right here?
It will show up.
Here?
Maybe.
Ooh, what if we put it like right here?
Oh, right there. Okay. So if you're listening, you'll have to go over and see these poses. Also during the week sometimes, they'll be on our Instagram page. So the tree pose. It looked really easy. So your hands are in the air and you do like this thing where you fold your one leg and you got to put your foot on the inside of your thigh.
Yeah, you got to like bend your leg.
It's like bending like a triangle thing. And it looks really simple. But I realized very quickly that I couldn't keep first of all, I'd have to like hold my leg and like lift it into position and move it into the right spot. And then, one leg was stronger than the other.
Isn't that the trick to the tree pose? Is the foot that is off the ground is to be rooted. I say rooted because that's like a yoga term, right?
And for tree pose, very, very appropriate.
To be rooted into your other leg so that way you can ground yourself with the foot that's on the ground.
Yes.
No pun intended. And
it should have been intended. It's very well done.
And so you need to kind of push that leg into your other leg or your foot into your leg.
When I first pulled that off and realized that I was able to have balance like this with my leg bent in, I was like, okay, I see this. Because I also didn't realize how important balance was.
See, I do the swaying tree.
That's a good move, a good yoga move. The swaying tree. Actually, they call it yoga. It's funny. I always think it's funny when they say the reason why we call it yoga practice is because we're always practicing. We never get there. And so if you sway, that's exactly what somebody would say. Oh, that's okay. You're doing the swaying tree. Yoga is actually kind of very much, although it's an ancient form of health and exercise type of thing, it's very much fits in today's culture of everybody wins. It's like you can't do yoga wrong. Oh, that's okay. You fell over. You're the falling over tree.
That's not true because I went to the gym one time and I signed up for a yoga class and I remember I was in the didn't want to go in the back because I didn't want to draw attention to myself. I also wanted to be able to see, but I didn't want to sit in the front. But yeah, somehow she was like, "Are you okay?" And at that moment, I was like, yeah. Do I not look okay? And she says, not really.
Just doing my yoga practice. I'm practicing.
I'm practicing not to fall over and pass out because I don't know what we were like.
But I've seen you do the tree. You can actually do a tree pretty well.
Yes,
Number
I do know that one.
Number 4 blew my mind, and it was the headstand, which you absolutely
that doesn't feel like yoga, although it does a good stretch on the.
So here's what it was that blew my mind. Number 1, I quickly understood the benefit of being upside down.
Yes.
We have an inversion table,
I
And
don't know why they call it that.
just
You don't
hanging
eat on
upside
it.
down, well, I guess you
Should
could.
be a bed, inversion bed.
But just that, the gravity pulling on your spine, you feel it.
Yep.
And
All the way down your spine.
And you should spend some part of every day upside down, just because of, like you
But
figure.
we spend all day right side up.
No wonder when you're 80, you start to crouch like this, because you've had 80 years of gravity, like pretty much pulling you down.
Well, fun fact, they actually say you're taller in the morning than you are at nighttime, because when you lay down at night, your back like stretches itself out.
That's why people take pictures of themselves in bed, makes them look taller. So the headstand, what was neat about the headstand for me was, and if you've never been able to try one, number one, I had never done one before. So I put my hands on the table and I was working with at Creekside Yoga in Sterling, Ontario. That's the place that got me going. And so it was just me, and so it was kind of like a specialty class, even though it was supposed to be other people there, but it was just me.
Or a 2-on-1.
So I go to do the thing, and you got to bend your knees and slowly like straighten your leg. Mm-hmm. And I was amazed at how quickly I was able to do it. And the reason why I was amazed was because I shouldn't be able to just do something for the first time and do it decently like that. But then I realized how important the core workout was in holding yourself up in that position. And I had already spent at that point like 2 years of doing regular yoga classes. And so I had developed the core strength to be able to do it. It's kind of like when my daughter, she learned to ride a bicycle the very first time she got on the bike. I didn't even have to hold the bottom, because she was on a tricycle for so long that and people be like, how, she doesn't ride a regular bike yet? I'm like, no, she's having fun on this little trike. That by the time she had got on a bike, she had, she was older than most kids that try to buy a bike, but by then she'd already developed the motor skills and the balance and all that stuff. So by the time she got on the bike, I think sometimes we throw people into things way too early. And so we're like, oh, there's a learning curve. It's like, well, maybe there's no learning curve. Maybe you just put people into things way too quickly, because she picked it up like that because her body had developed to the point of doing
I don't know. I know what child you're talking about. I think it was just she was having too much fun and going way too fast, that there was no not riding the bike. It was just...
She might have just been a really quick learner. But that's what the headstand thing was. I realized that at that time, I realized I had developed some sort of core strength. Number 3 on Timmy's top 5 yoga moves is the cow-facing legs. So the cow-facing legs, photo.
I'm all confused because, I don't get to see this photo, but is it like a cow facing a pair of legs?
Well, you've got your knees like this, or like this. Let's do it like, well, you can see. So they'll see the picture, but I'm doing this for your own benefit.
Okay.
But, so it's like this. Your knees are like this.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the photo.
Stacked on top. Okay. So look at the photo.
Okay.
So the knees are stacked on top of each other. And then you fold over and touch, well, in my case, I touch my chin to my knees. I did not know the importance of your hips.
Sounds painful.
I think it's cow facing because it's like, it looks like a cow's face. Anyways.
It's not a leg facing cow?
No. I mean, that might be the name of another. Believe me, the names that these things, and this isn't even the official name. It's probably called the Yaksui Salami thing. I don't know what the official name is, but the cow-facing leg was the best English translation they could come up with. But I didn't realize the importance of hips. Now, as a man, you are always raised up for things like, you want to, yoga shoulders, muscles. You see how many guys like spend their entire life so that their chest
they bulk
and their
up the
arms,
top and
right?
then the bottom with the little...
And some of that is health related. A lot of it is this aesthetics. Okay, it's like, I look good. I want to be able to take my shirt off at the beach. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. At some point, that sort of muscle definition is no longer serves a purpose of health, except for the fact that when you get down to about 12% body fat, that's when the six-pack starts to pop. And as much as you might go, well, that's just for aesthetics. I mean, when you get down to low body fat, it's a healthy place.
Yeah, but we don't need to add more muscle to that percentage of body fat.
Very true. So I started to realize that there are days now where it's like, if I had the choice to do weights or stretch out my hips, I stretch out my hips every single time. It's an amazing feeling, and you would be amazed when you first start to try to do a move like this one. You go, wow, I didn't even know that my hips were in that bad a shape. And then you realize how important hips are for moving around and walking.
Well, it's flexibility, right? Like if your hips, like you're like, oh, I'm going to choose my hips over my arms. But if you don't flex your hips, you're not going to be able to walk. Therefore, you're not going to be able to do anything, let alone work on your arms.
Don't underestimate the power of the hips. Number two.
The hips don't lie.
My hips do not lie. Number two on my list of top 5 yoga moves is the half pigeon. Now the half pigeon, as you can see, is it's another hip opening thing, but with your leg kind of bent 45 right in front and leaning your entire body over.
Where are they looking here? Is this where it is?
The picture?
Because that's where you're describing, you're like doing the hand things, but if the box is there.
Well, I can move the box up here if I want to. That's what.
But you can put it right here.
Right now, just so you all know, she is looking at this screen, but don't worry about it. I'm
going to hold the box.
That's fine. You can. Okay, so you will hold the box there. So you might need to hold it bigger for people to actually be able to see the image. So on this one here, though, I remember looking around the room going, like, I could barely like move, like, 45-degree angle. And the more I did it, the more I got to the point where I could actually put my chest to the ground, and it feels incredible. I'm telling you, all of these moves, you go, I can't. Maybe some of you are like, that's an easy move, but it's probably because you've been doing it for a long time. But some of these moves, you're like, I could never do that. Every single one of these moves, at one point, I was like, I cannot do that, and it hurt, and it was like, there's no way I can get down that low, never ever. And then eventually I could, and it's a good lesson in life. Just right the first couple times you try something, it's so important not to give up.
I've done yoga with Timmy a couple times, and I'm not ashamed to say that I've cried multiple times because it was really hard. And for some reason, being in the silence of the difficult pose and the strain and trying to stay strong gets in your brain, and I find myself standing there thinking, this is like life is going to throw difficult things at you, and you're going to have to be strong and stand there and not give up. And next thing I know, the tears are just rolling. I'm like, how much longer do we have? You're like, it's only been 3 minutes.
Wait, does yoga counteract the effects of cannabis on you? Because you talk about how cannabis, your mind's always spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Does yoga counteract that?
No. See, okay.
Does it bring out something else?
My mind spins all the time, but when I'm forced to stop, like with yoga, I'm forced to stop and be sedentary. And it leaves me with, now I'm forced to focus on this, whereas most of the time I focus on this. So if I'm focusing on this, I'm not focusing on this. And when I'm forced to focus in here, then it creates things like, what did I start talking about last time we finished yoga? Trauma from past. Right, and I was like, why? It was like 25 minutes, half an hour of yoga. See? It's weird therapy, but it's good for a stretch.
Well, I've heard similar things about cannabis, though, that cannabis doesn't, it's not an escape, because people talk about how people use these things to escape life. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That in fact, if anything, it reveals things that you don't want to be revealed. That it actually allows you to enter.
I'm not saying it's negative either, though. Like
no, none of this it's not negative.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't want anyone to misconstrue. Like, yes, I cried when I do yoga and whatever, but like, that's what I feel like is a part of healing as well. Like in life and in our journeys, things happen to us. It happens to all of us. And a lot of times we push it aside. We didn't realize that it affected us as much as it did. And then something happens and it comes back. And now you're left to deal with all of whatever emotion is left. So I'm not saying it's negative. It was just something that I really feel the pain. It's the pain in my body that I'm literally, like Timmy says, the hips. I'm bent over and my lower back is hurting. And I'm thinking about the fact that I'm young and I shouldn't feel this sore. And why have I done this to myself? And now I'm hard on myself. And then it turns into a whole therapy session that I can't even.
Well, yoga for sure definitely reveals all the muscles and joints and stuff that you don't even think about for most of your life.
Well, no, because you don't use them on a daily basis.
You use them on a daily basis all the time, but not to the point of utilizing them to keep them, like, because our hips are always being used as we walk and stuff, but we don't realize that they're degrading over time unless we stretch them out more. And then we wonder,
strengthened.
The gift of life is not years 1 through 60. No matter how hard you live, 1 through 60, everybody can kind of get there. Yes, there's accidents along the way. The key, the true gift to life is quality of life beyond 60, I say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not a scientist. I'm just throwing this out there as a rough example to say that the stuff that we do now really does affect that later on.
I actually drank my water today.
And number 1 on Timmy's top 5 yoga positions, my favorite one all time is the crow.
I was going to say, I know this one because I've seen it almost anywhere that you can do it.
Anywhere I go, I will show people that. And it is literally, as you can see in the picture, people listening, it's a balance. You've got your knees on, you've got your hands on the floor.
I don't know where the photo is, but I want to leave lots of room
your
because
knees,
it's friggin' awesome.
Your knees go up onto your elbows. So you're balancing just on the palms of your hands with all of your body weight on kind of resting on your arms and stuff. I could not hold this pose for even a brief moment. I'd always have one toe touching down at any given time. And I'm looking around once again at these older women going, how are they doing this for like 10, 15, 20 seconds? And I was ready to give up the pose until one day my held it for like 3 seconds. And I remember, I think I cried that day. I'm like, oh, and then I did a 10 count one day. And that was just, that was actually the moment that I started to like preach for yoga and say, this has radically changed my life. I had tried weightlifting things and all these different exercise programs for years. The thing that gave me some upper body strength, it may not have built muscle mass, but the thing that gave me strength, which is very different than muscle mass, was doing poses like the crow. And I am stronger today than I was in my 20s because of a pose like this. So
I will say 2 times, very impressive times I've seen you do that. One was the last time when you did it at Lyft in the unicorn onesie because it was really cold. And we had been outside for a really long time. So, like, I'm impressed that you weren't froze and you were actually able to do it. Mm-hmm. And you did it for a long time. Like, I don't even know, 25, 30 seconds.
That one threw me off.
I was like, are you just going to keep doing it until you fall? Like, what's going on here? And the other time was on Eric's boat.
Yes, on the front of a moving boat. I was very proud of that.
Well, it wasn't moving. But
it was
on
rocking.
Water. It was just going to say.
So is that moving?
It was. No? It wasn't moving. It was docked.
What's the definition of moving?
It was on a dock. It was like docked. However, like it's on water. I can barely stand and not fall on a boat when it's on the water.
So it
let
was
alone.
Moving.
I'm not going to argue. And that's how you keep it fresh.
It was moving. Those are my top 5 yoga moves. I suggest that you all begin to try those. And believe me, hang in there and you'll find incredible benefits.
Or don't hang in there and fall, but you'll still benefit.
You'll be the falling tree.
That's funny.
Namaste.
Namaste here.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of On the Spot with the Noobie and the Doobie. Our special guest today is Ross Rebagliati. I've been practicing that all week. With all the passion that you obviously exhibit right now for cannabis and the industry and breaking stigma and all those things, was that also true about snowboarding? like taking it back one step now? Was that an all-consuming thing for you as well?
Well, it was. I ski raced until I was 15.
Okay.
I started snowboarding when I was 15, the same year I stopped skiing, obviously, and that was 1987. In 1987, you weren't allowed to snowboard in Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
What do? There was no snowboard shops in Canada. There were no snowboard magazines. There was nothing. If you wanted to go snowboarding, you had to go to France, right? Basically, my friends went down to Oregon that summer of 87, around maybe it was summer of 86. Came back with snowboards from Oregon, and my friend from France who moved to Vancouver, where I was growing up, had a snowboard from France, and all of a sudden my friends all had snowboards and I got one. We started just snowboarding and like hiking up Cypress Bowl before it opened, and snowboarding on, or the local parks in Vancouver. Eventually my dad would drive us down to Washington to Mount Baker, where they were already allowing snowboarding. But it wasn't until 88 that we were allowed to snowboard in Canada and in British Columbia. So there was snowboard prohibition. And then, so when we came, I was like the first person literally to go up the chairlift on Blackcomb. And at the time, Whistler didn't allow snowboarding. Just Blackcomb did. They weren't owned by the same people as they are today. And so opening day, 1988, I was like practically first in line out of everybody. And it wasn't like the mayhem that it is today on opening day. But I was literally like the first guy up Blackcomb on a snowboard. And there was so much discrimination by skiers. They hated us so much. We were like the skateboarders that somehow like tricked everybody to let them on the, and we were getting dissed. Like people were yelling at us off the chairlift. And, as a 15-year-old, it was great.
Why would there be so much hate?
Because they said
skiers are
that
a certain brand, right?
It's like, listen, there's right-wing skiers all over the place, just like there's in any aspect of society, right?
Wow.
And so snowboarding was like the new like enemy, right? It was like the big, they're dangerous, like fear them. You must be afraid of snowboarders because they're just gonna come out of left field and take you out. But yeah, they did. They would take you out, but the skiers would take each other out. It wasn't a different phenomenon. It was just like, oh, it was a snowboarder, right? And then they're like, oh, they're wrecking the groomies. And, the next thing you know, they're building half pipes and snowboard parks, right? And like the mountains, literally at the time, if you look back in history, there was a huge recession, right? The stock market crashed. Ski resorts were going bankrupt. They had no choice but to do something to boost their ticket sales, right? Same thing happened to the Olympics. That's why in 94, they said we're going, because the kids weren't watching the bobsled, right? They didn't want to watch the cross-country skiing or any whatever, legacy sports. They wanted, and so the Olympics had to figure out, we needed snowboarding. And the same thing now with Sha'Carri happened. She doesn't get to compete. Millions of dollars were lost on TV rights in that race that she was going to do, and the bonuses and all trickles down the line just because of the THC. So now they're reviewing the THC because like a big ticket event got affected, and the bottom line got affected. And so now all of a sudden they're reviewing, which is great. I don't really care why they're reviewing it. Yeah. Get it off the list. It's not supposed to be there. It's only there because of prohibition, racism, discrimination, corporate, interests, and nothing to do with keeping a level playing field, and nothing to do with the spirit of sport. Let's just get into that for a second. The IOC supports, like just as an example, LGBTQ right across the board. Okay, not all countries are behind that. The Olympics does it anyways, right? Because it's the right thing to do. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing here. With CBD and THC, it shouldn't be there. It doesn't matter if some countries aren't legal. It's the right thing to do. Get it off the list.
Agreed.
So I was talking to a friend a little while ago, and I have developed now friends on both sides of the spectrum. Obviously, most of my life was people who if they thought they knew anything about cannabis, they were. Turns out they were wrong. But I was talking to someone recently about the cannabis and I guess performance enhancement, and obviously, you know, you're fully in that, understanding that world. My assumption growing up was clearly it can't be, because it should have a negative effect. It should make you lazy, like the guy sitting in his couch with chips on his stomach watching video games all day. That's the perception of what it should do to you. But then the other side of it, when I was talking to this friend of mine, was, well, what if you needed cannabis because you couldn't perform on that stage because you got so anxious? So it actually kept the anxiousness down, therefore enhancing your ability to perform. Is that performance enhancement? How do you see cannabis in this world? Is it enhance at all? Not enhance? Just what is your perspective on when people bring that whole issue up?
Okay, it's all of the above, but just the last thing you said, the cannabis isn't conducive to being on stage. It's not conducive to having cameras in your face or being around people you're not comfortable with. It's just like doing acid. You don't want to be around people you don't know, and definitely don't want to be on stage on an international level, like with cameras and guys with machine guns standing around. Like, it's just not where you want to be, right? Like, it does. You know, but what it does do is it trains you to be calm over the period of time that you use cannabis, because you don't, like, I'm a healthy guy right across the board. Like, I used to drink. I don't drink anymore. I'm 3 years into not drinking, loving it. I don't want to, like, we can dive into that, whatever. I don't care. But I'm just healthy all across the board. So it doesn't, like, you could take one thing away from me, I'm still going to be healthy, right? But the thing is about, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? This is
performance enhancement.
performance enhancement.
Cannabis is not conducive to
Cannabis not conducive to crowds.
So, as a cannabis user, right? I like use cannabis on a regular basis. I have since I was around 20, and I've learned that it can be part of a healthy lifestyle for me. And I've learned in situations while I'm on cannabis that it helps me in so many different ways, especially with my family and my wife and my relationships with other people. It gives me pause instead of like quickly saying something, like having a sharp tongue, or, you know, and it gives me a chance to reflect on things, like when I'm rolling a joint and when I'm smoking a joint. It gives me that opportunity to reflect, and it's introspective. Like I like to say, cannabis introduces you to yourself, right? As an athlete, you often hear how much of a head game it is. It's such a head game. It's all head game. Everyone has the best snowboard, the best skis, the best bobsled.
Right.
The gear is hardly the issue anymore, right? It's all upstairs. And, you know, of course, you need the right coaching and a huge amount of support. So there's a lot that goes into it, to be honest. But it is really about, even if you have the best support group, if you're not feeling confident upstairs. And so here's the thing. Our body has an endocannabinoid system. It's like practically the biggest, like, organism in our body. It's like number 2 besides the skin, I think. Prohibition has caused us to be cannabinoid deficient, okay? It's like being vitamin B12 deficient. It's not an excuse to be deficient in cannabinoids just because of prohibition. Our body needs this stuff, right? And mother's milk is super high in cannabinoids, but it's that's why babies are so, like, satisfied after feeding. Now that we have legalization in Canada, our bodies are legally allowed to run at their optimal level, right? So before prohibition, I would have argued, yes, it's performance enhancing for so many different reasons, okay? But now, because of prohibition ending and legalization and our understanding of our endocannabinoid system, having it topped off with cannabinoids just allows us to run at the level we're supposed to run at. And by the way, they figured out when your cannabinoid system is topped up, every single cell in your body does twice as much as it does without that.
Wow.
Twice as much. And that's everything that your cells do, not just your skin cells or your hair or your fingernail cells. Like, your whole entire body, your whole thing is working, not just twice as much, but they're doing twice as many things. So it's an incredible, like, exponential amount that your body does for you so when we talk about performance enhancing in the traditional sense of the word, you're like, okay, I'm going to smoke a joint, I can run faster, that sort of thing. I don't know. No one's really like done that test. I'd be willing to like do tests like that, and see how it turns out. But I would argue that somebody who uses cannabis is going to have a much more even keel, is going to show up to training much more regular, and is going to perform at a better, optimal. Is going to perform optimally at those training sessions. And at the end of the day, after years and years of training, all this positivity and the extra days of training on the rainy days and the cold mornings, and the late nights and being away from your family, and somehow being able to handle all of that upstairs without intoxicating yourself in a negative way, and that whole lifestyle that goes with it, lends itself to being healthier and performing at a higher level. And so you can see it from lots of different angles.
Right.
It all depends. Like, people interpret, like in law and in politics, people interpret the same thing like a million different ways.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm glad you brought up the endocannabinoid system, because that's I'm all about teaching and the education, and I like to put things in terms that other people can understand, because like everybody has a car, right? We all have cars or vehicles or whatever. We know to check the oil. We know to, the windshield washer fluid, the coolant, the gas, keep all that stuff done. But did you know that there's a little fuse panel in there, and there's like little fuses, and they all have different numbers, and a lot of people don't know that. But they also don't know that, like you said, we have all these endocannabinoid receptors, and although we're feeding ourselves milk or dairy or cheese, all the stuff, the meat, all your vitamins, but you're not getting the proper cannabinoids. So that's why when Ross is saying, we're just getting what we need to be in this state of homeostasis, in the best state that we could possibly be in. And that will eventually help you perform better.
And guess what? When they made weed illegal, whatever it was, 80 years ago, that was like the birth of Big Pharma.
Yep.
Because cannabis oil was the base of almost every single medicine.
Yep. THC tincture.
On the planet was the base. And then they would add other herbs and things to that to augment it, to do different things, right? But the base was cannabis. And then all this issues that we're having with ADHD, anxiety, stress, depression, these are all symptoms of having a deficient cannabinoid system. And the Big Pharma has capitalized on lobbying the US government to keep it that way, for one thing, so that they can sell people their synthetic drugs. I mean, the opioid crisis is a perfect example. No one's talking about the cannabinoid crisis, because they want you to be on those antidepressants, right?
Yep.
But the opioid crisis, it doesn't affect me and you, so we don't give a shit. And who cares what the drug addicts do? And and they're just continuing to pump, regions of the country. Like Tennessee, for example, I think there's like 30 million people that live in Tennessee, or less, or no, 7 million people live in the whole state of Tennessee, and something like 180 million codeine pills or whatever had gone into that state in the year before.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
For only that 7 million people, it's like 100 pills per person per month or something like that.
Well, see, Dr. William Courtney, doctor in the cannabis industry, or cannabis user as a doctor, however you want to put it, he believes that cannabis is not just a vitamin, but it's a vegetable, and actually juices the cannabis plant and drinks it every day. Like, not blends, but juices with the wheatgrass juicer. It's disgusting. I've tried it, but super healthy. And like you're saying, to get a really big boost of cannabinoids, and we're trying to make up for how many years. Like my mother was deficient, her mother was deficient, and it's just been bred into us. And I've got just what I smoke, so.
Yeah, well, it's a generational thing, because we do have to deal with the stigmas and things like that, to move forward. And we also need the numbers that we weren't allowed to gather before. And once cannabis has been legal for a certain amount of time, they'll have the hospital visits that are related. They'll have the car accidents that are related. They'll have the various deaths. Like everyone knows there's never been death like due to cannabis like on its own. But they'll have these numbers.
Yeah.
And before they have these numbers, of course, we have these child-proof lids, and you can't have like a picture that a kid's gonna like all of a sudden decide to smoke weed. Like just like there's no vodka bottle with a child-proof cap on it.
Advil 72 bottle does not come with a childproof thing. I can open it with one finger. And I called to ask them why this was so. And they said if I needed a childproof lid, that I should buy the smaller bottle because that one comes with childproof thing. And I was like, wait a minute.
Right?
This bottle is three times as much. This is going to kill somebody, but it's okay.
No, but it's up to good parenting.
Of course.
They're leaving it up to the discretion of which they should do. I mean, I'm a believer of childproof. Okay, I've got 3 kids. I get it. Okay,
but why should cannabis be different though? That's my thing. Like, why do our cannabis packages have to be like ridiculous?
No, that's exactly, and that's why they need these numbers that I'm referring to. So because the politicians don't know, they think this is like codeine or like a regular pharmaceutical drug because it started off in a medical. The only way we could get it through the courts was medically. And so it's been classified as a drug, but coffee is not considered a drug. Oregano isn't considered a drug. Rosemary or none of that stuff is considered drugs. It's the same exact sort of plant medicine that we're talking about with cannabis, and they're not classified as drugs. But the class 1 classification in the States has put it on the Schedule 1, and the prohibition that the States has spread around the world, or else you can't be an ally of the States, has created this huge, like massive issue, right? And that's why, it's still federally illegal in the States because it's tied into so many diplomatic relationships that they have, and they have a hard time backpedaling it. They're gonna have to.
I really appreciate just as you walk through the cannabinoid system, and it's one of those things, as I've been on this learning journey, it's been amazing of how much stuff wasn't told to me. And when you talk about that, it makes sense to me. And I've learned a ton as MJ talks about that thing. And it makes me think about, like, I'm anti pharma, whatever you want to call it. Like, there used to be a time when I would pop a Tylenol every single day because I get these stress headaches. And then 4 years ago, as a joke, I started to do yoga because I thought it was just for women and flexibility, and I wanted to do something on my Instagram that was funny. And now I swear by it. I haven't taken a Tylenol in 3.5 years because I was only dealing with the symptom, and yoga, a natural form of stretching, actually removed all the things that I was taking the pill to kind of just get rid of the headache for. And when you talk about the cannabinoid system, that to me makes it sound like cannabis is as much a performance enhancer as get enough sleep, do regular exercise, eat healthy. Yep. Like if it's somebody is, what's that?
It's part of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. If somebody is an athlete, if 2 athletes and one is on a better sleeping regimen, eating healthier, and doing a better exercise program, technically their performance has been enhanced over the one who hasn't. And that's exactly what cannabis is. It's adding another element, a natural element. So if you want to call that enhancement, that's just called healthy living, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And in the sports like cycling, for example, like the Tour de France, like marginal gains are kind of what they're after. And running. Those guys from Kenya that run the Boston Marathon, they're literally down to like what shoelaces they're using to try to, and so it's these small differences that you can put together called marginal gains, and cannabis and water and potassium and all these things that you need as an athlete and as a normal person, just add up to being, almost unbeatable. And you do need all of those things, because you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And stress happens to be, and anxiety and depression happen to be very good friends of athletes. And not drinking and sleeping, going to bed early, waking up early, having a lifestyle that's repetitive, that is sustainable for years on end, like for your whole life. Like, I don't go on a diet. I'm on a diet. Like, I'm not on a diet. This is my diet. Like, that's the concept that you have to think about. Like, you don't go on a diet. You fix your diet so that you eat like that every day of your life, or and it's just a different mindset, really. And it's the people that are open to using cannabis that are also more open to those different kinds of mindsets and thinking outside the box. And it really does make you more comfortable when you're uncomfortable. And that's what we're getting back to as far as stress and things like that. You don't need to smoke a joint that day. But if you've been training yourself, like yoga, for example, like smoking weed is like yoga, right? Like, over a period of a decade, you will train yourself to be more calm. And if you watch like interviews of me at the Olympics, like, the reporters were like, "You're so fucking calm." And I'm like, I know, but I'm all torn up inside. Like, you wouldn't believe what it was like being in jail. But yeah.
Wow. Well, I can tell you, quite frankly, I could probably say, look, the biggest win that you've had is I might walk out of this room and smoke a joint now, because I'm healthy in all other areas of my life. And now I'm like, did Ross Gold just convince me to go smoke another joint?
Well, listen, if you do that, just remember, dosing is everything. Like, you match it to your tolerance.
Yeah.
Instead of having like a big puff, have a teeny tiny little hoot and flick that joint as far away from you as possible.
Well, it is that time again.
Time for a smoke?
No, unfortunately, it's time for us to say goodbye.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us today.
Please take a moment to join us on our Patreon page. Become a patron. If you've been enjoying anything that we're doing, a little bit of money monthly can go in there to help us continue to do the things that we're doing, go the places we want to go, and continue to grow this show. As well, you'll have access to full interviews of the people that we have interviewed, hence they're called interviews. Those will be available there, because you only see clips on these episodes. As well, there'll be other extras and stuff available there too. So go to our Patreon at the Noobie and the Doobie and help support what we're doing here.
And you can also connect with us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at the Noobie and the Doobie.
And of course, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel, and as well your favorite podcatcher. Whether you want to watch us or listen to us, we always recommend watching based on things that you even saw in this episode. But go on to there at the Noobie and the Doobie. Push little bell notifications, whatever it may be, so you do not miss anything coming up.
And while you're there, why not share with your family and friends, whether they're a newbie or a doobie?
And on that note, with this, I close.
Our podcast is a weekly podcast?
I was getting there. I was being more dramatic.
Okay.
With this, I close. Our podcast is a weekly podcast, so we will see you next week. But until then, please remember,
stay lifted
and keep on laughing. Cheers. Hi, I'm Timmy.
And I'm Marijane. He's the newbie.
She's the doobie. And this is the show
where we
tote
cannabis.
Talk.
From both sides.
Is that even possible?
Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this toke.